And we are live. What is up, wrestling friends? This is Derek Lewandowski, and you are listening to and perhaps watching AWW Radio live on Facebook. And maybe you're listening on our podcast. We welcome every watcher and listener to today's exciting show as we wrap up our Virtual Best of All-Time tournament that we have done in collaboration with Reaper Wrestling. And we have our panel for today, our hosts joining me today. I welcome the other Bleacher brother, Ben Lewandowski. Welcome again, Ben.
Good day, everybody. Good to see you.
Good day.
I don't know, Derek. You know, we really didn't even talk about this part of it, all right? Just
good day. That sounds like, I mean, do people even say that anymore?
Well, I was thinking about saying good morning. I was thinking about saying good morning because I know we have some people on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And we're doing this in the middle of the day, so maybe I should just went with good morning.
All right, you know what?
Makes it sound real proper, Ben.
Yeah.
It kind of does.
I didn't know where to land. I didn't know. I said good. I didn't know where to stop.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
Right. Also, we welcome 2019 Senior Nationals champ and NCAA champ Emma Bruntil. Welcome again, Emma, the brainchild behind this whole thing. So we welcome you. We welcome three-time All-American from SFU. Stay calm, Ben. Lauren Mason.
Hey guys.
SFU.
Ben, did you get your shirt? I
didn't get it.
I sent it in the mail.
It's probably at the house now, but it didn't come today.
Dang.
I know.
Bummer.
I'm wearing an AWW shirt.
All right. You'll have it for future episodes. And finally, our special guest, no stranger to the women's wrestling community, 2019 Senior Nationals champ, two-time U.S. Open champion, three-time college All-American for perhaps one of the greatest college teams ever, this year's 2019-2020 Menlo team. We welcome you, Precious Bell.
What's good, guys?
So, Precious, we need to take some time before we get into this and kind of do a little mini interview with you. I got to say that, you know, around AWW, we were really rooting for Menlo to have that opportunity to go to the NAIA and show your medal. We felt like, you know, you guys expected in the rankings. I mean, you beat Campbellsville at the NWCA National Duels and Life, and then you get ranked behind them. So, anyway, I wanted to just get your take on it and have you talk about your team this year and your whole experience, especially with the disappointing ending. But still, you were undefeated. Your team was in position to do some great things, and you did some great things. So could you talk about that?
Yeah, so by far, Joey Brang is, to me, one of the best coaches in the country. I think he has proved that by taking a team that was very low and in 5 years, not just developing a number one team, but if you pound for pound look at all the athletes that he has developed, including me who started wrestling in college, it's crazy. It's inspirational. So I can say things he can't say. No disrespect to the other teams, but, you know, I grind with Menlo. I had blood, sweat, and tears in that room. I have seen my coach go from headache to headache to headache. And it was just frustrating this year that to me, it was pretty obvious that Menlo was number one. We came into the season very humble. And to my like opinion, we came in very humble. And we worked for everything, you know, just because we were number one. My coach has this saying that, like, no one's going to remember the 2018-19 Missouri Valley Open champ. Like, it's time for the new year. Like, that's kind of how it was in our mat room this year. Like, yeah, so they are going to remember the 2019 two-time, you know, national champions, but it's a new year, so we need to step up. So the rankings, we don't really go by rankings. We only really care about rankings when it comes to getting into spots in the bracket. But other than that, we weren't really hanging on to that number one title. We like to start from the bottom on the ground up. So I think getting that journey was so fun there. And then having us seniors, me, Marilyn Garcia, and Solon Piercy, and one of our juniors, Angie Peralta, like going to U.S. Open and competing with our team while the rest of our team competed. And I forget what the tournament's called, West Coast. We were kind of excited for national duels because you got to think about it. We came straight from those big tournaments, me winning it, and Aleda and Gracie, you know, having big matches, you know, going to national duels and kind of just getting ready to fight, because everyone was, you know, kind of wore out. But we have this mentality that we keep going. I think the thing that I was frustrated and felt disrespected as a Menlo athlete is we fought, like, props to Campbellsville in life. Those were like war. That was like war on the mat. And that's something that I loved for people to see, because it brought that energy. If you looked at us wrestle, it was head to head to head. But I think one thing I don't appreciate is we beat both those teams. And yeah, we missed some of our starting lineup people, like Gracie wasn't there. We had some other crucial people that would have made that lineup even better, weren't there, and we still won. And we kept our heads high. We were humble. We took our trophy, went back home, and we worked even harder. And to kind of hear, you know, and see, not just hear, but to see the disrespect of, you know, life in Campbellsville being ranked ahead of us was kind of just like, all right, does rankings even mean anything anymore? Like, we pound for pound beat you guys, and fairly. And then we go a month or two later where you guys haven't wrestled us, and all of a sudden you guys are ranked ahead of us. Like, I think for any team, that's like plain disrespect, and that's just something that, you know, makes you want to work harder in the room. So we took it, we swallowed it, and we were like, you know what, we got to take our L's sometimes, and we worked even harder in the mat room. And I am super sad that, you know, me, Solon, and Marilyn didn't get to end our senior year the right way. And I'm really sad for the rest of the seniors in the NIA, because in my opinion, a lot of the really good wrestlers were in the NIA. And I'm kind of sad we didn't get our national championship, and that we didn't get to showcase how dominant we were, because we were ready to knock some heads off. And I was ready to, because that disrespect, it lingers, and it's like a fire, you know. And our coach is a very humble man. So he kind of just like tells us, like, if we have a problem with something, we have to solve it. And we're ready to solve it, but we never got to. But I have full confidence. Don't sleep on Menlo now. Next year is just going to be just as strong.
Yeah, and it's not like...
Sorry, Derek, go ahead.
Go ahead, Emma.
Oh, I was saying next year, I think we need a Menlo-McKendree duel.
Yeah, even the old school people, put me back in there a little bit. Bring back Brandy Lowe or someone.
That would actually be amazing.
Some alumni.
Yeah, alumni, a McKendree duel with the recents and the alumni. That would be like a great, because McKendree, pound for pound, is a great freaking team too. And then
Sam right now.
Yeah. Sam is awesome, dude. He's one of the coaches I like a lot.
So I got to say though, Precious, in spite of the fact that you didn't get to do the NAIA, it's not like your program is walking out empty-handed. You won the 2019 WCWA, right? So you were national champs there. And then, of course, this last year you won the NAIA division at NWCA National Duels. I think it hurts probably your program and the people involved more than anything. But even those of us who are watching and love women's wrestling, it hurts that, you know, you didn't get that opportunity to vindicate yourselves. But all that said, I'm going to say it again. I think Menlo, this year's 2019-20 team, should go down in our minds as one of the best women's college wrestling teams of all time. You already mentioned you had, what, 6 number ones?
Dude, we had, okay, so and by the way, we not as we should, we are, in my opinion, and if people don't agree with that, just be ready to wrestle us. We always prove it, but we had Aleda, number 1. Gracie, number 1. We had Solon Pearson, number 1. You had me, that was number 1. And then you had Tiana Jackson, who was number 1. And then I think I'm missing someone. And then you had a returning national champ at 143s. And then you got to remember, Menlo had a thing where we went against each other for 143s for the national championships. You have Angela, who was, you know, runner-up. And that's just talking about people that were in the finals and that are number 1. That's 7 people. Yeah. 7 people out of a 10 weight class. And not saying that we had Alana, who was getting up there. I think she was number 1 or number 2, and she was a freshman, you know. And then you had our 101 pounder, Tiana, who was also like really good and up there. So it's like, we were just like a power. If people actually sat down and did the stats of our whole, not just the 10 varsity, but then also the people that came so close to it, it was
obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, it was obvious.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. And now you're actually in Wisconsin right now. I didn't know if you knew that. I just wanted to make sure you knew. You're in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think I'm in Wisconsin. Yeah, I moved. I made a big move about actually 10 days ago, 13 days ago. I decided it was a great opportunity to work with one of the best people, I think, like spiritually, faithful God, and sports-wise, Kevin Black. So yeah. I'm starting my journey with him, and it's beautiful out here. People are nice, just the environment. And it's something different from going in the room and wrestling with women and being competitive. Like Emma can talk on this, and Lauren, like it's different wrestling with everyone that's just as good as you than going and wrestling with girls that are coming up and that are talented. And you know that like they're going to be way better than who I am or some of the people that wrestle now when they grow up, because they're the next generation. And just having their kind of presence there, it's a different type of energy. You know, I had some of the best practices I have had in a while. We're just wrestling in his garage, you know. So it's not about the place where you make it, it's about what you make out of it. So yeah, I'm loving Wisconsin. I'm thinking this might be a little permanent thing going on.
Well, congrats and much success to you. And thank you for joining us today on this this special show we have, the virtual finals. This has been a lot of fun. It's created a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
And I think this whole project has shown that people love women's wrestling, and even the people who have come out to defend wrestlers that are from, you know, a previous era. This sport's been around for a while, and there's been people passionate about it for a long time, and it's been really cool to even combine those eras and those conversations, and it's been a lot of fun, and I think good for the sport. So Emma, I'll hand it off to you now as you kind of reset us and get us ready for today's show.
Yeah, so just to remind the fans out there, so what we're going to do is break down each match. You know, there's only one match per weight class now, so we are determining the best of all time today. So landmine rules overall. So if someone landmines a match, which there is one remaining landmine out there, then that person wins automatically. But otherwise, each guest and host gets a vote. And then at the end, we'll determine majority. If there's a tie, the vote goes back to the fans, which was on our Twitter polls this week. And then, yeah, we'll just go match by match and kind of say what we think, you know, kind of their credentials, body of work, and then what we think a match would look like between some of the greatest. So first, we have 2012 Clarissa Chun at 50 kg against 2013 Alyssa Lampy, which I think is a really great matchup.
Sure is. Who wants to jump in here? Anybody want to give their thoughts right away?
Yeah, I will. So Clarissa is my dog, though. She's like my number one in my corner. So I'm gonna not be too biased, but just if you ever seen Clarissa wrestle, I've seen Lampy wrestle. I have actually like watched videos. Clarissa's, to me, just her, like, yeah, their technique wise, but like her talent and just poise, how like if you watched her wrestle, just like in certain positions, how she can just like out of nowhere make it happen, just wonky positions. So I'm gonna take Clarissa for this one.
Jared, have they wrestled?
They have wrestled, yeah. Clarissa beat her in the best of 3 in 2011, and keep in mind Clarissa's peak year was 2012, right? So pretty close to her peak year. She beat Lampy in a best of 3 in what would have been the equivalent of 2 tech falls today. They had different scoring back then. But in 2015, they wrestled again, and Lampy smashed her. She pinned her maybe in the first period, but she was up 6-0 when she pinned her. So, you know, that was a little bit of a shocker to see that match. Ben, you did some research. Yeah. Any other results that you saw?
No, I mean, the issue there, I mean, I think Clarissa was on the backside of her career at that point.
Yeah.
She was to her there in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just, what Precious said, I was just, that's one of the stuff I just saw in Clarissa's style, just so flexible. And I think you said the wonky was getting in some wonky positions. I mean, there definitely was She was amazing. And I watched a lot of matches between her and Patricia Miranda. Obviously, Miranda besting her early on in her career. Then Chun coming back in 2008, beating Miranda. And of course, that wasn't even peak year. Just continued to get better and better, and fantastic wrestler. Obviously, there's a reason she's seated number 1 and she is who she is. I'm going with Chun.
I'll go next. So I think it's a toss-up because, like you said, Derek, and Ben, Chun was on the backside of her career at that point. In 2015, she, made her first Olympic year run in 2004. So that's almost 11 years after the fact. So I don't think the result in 2015 is necessarily as accurate. And I think the result in 2011, you can kind of, that wasn't Lampy's peak either. She was still on the come up at that point. I think if you look at common opponents, they both wrestled Victoria, and Lampy beat Victoria this year and a lot in previous years to make world teams in the past. And then, Vicky always kind of had Chun's number towards the end of her career, of course, considering that was the backside. I do think Chun would give Lampy some problems in kind of her upper body abilities. She had a great arm throw. She had that foot sweep. If any of you guys saw Reaper post that, she had an amazing foot sweep and just a lot of creative ways to score. And, I think another thing to consider was Chun was always really small, even for 48 kilos. And Alyssa Lampy doesn't cut, I don't think, as much anymore, but she was a big 48 kilo and really, really strong. So I'm going to take Lampy because I think between her strength and their common opponent, I think that she could give Chun some troubles. But I do think kind of Chun would sneak a throw in there. I think Lampy would hit kind of a double later on and kind of ride it out, and then maybe one more takedown. But I think it'd be a really close match. But I have Lampy coming out on top.
Ooh, we got Lampy. Okay. Lauren, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think I'm going to have to say Chun. I agree with what's been said. She's super dominant from a lot of different positions. And like Emma was saying, she's got some upper body stuff and then some low, like foot sweep, lower kind of things. So she's dangerous from multiple levels. She also has an Olympic bronze. So that is a big deal. Like I've said before, and in past podcasts, like Olympic bronze, Olympic silver, Olympic gold, that's a big deal, especially in like my weight of how people should be ranked and how they will come up. And I do agree that 2015 match or was it 2015 when they wrestled?
Yeah, 2015.
That was definitely, like Emma said, that was a while after Chun's. It was like the very end of her career. So I think I'm going to go with Chun for this one.
Okay. Looking at the research around this one, really interesting matchup, even in the results, which we've already pointed out how they've beaten each other. One of the interesting things too to point out was we put Chun over Agello, right, to advance her to the semis, and Agello beat Lampy 7-6 in 2016. But we put Lampy over Miranda to make the semi, and Miranda just crushed Chun in 2003 and 2004, which was young in Chun's career. So anyway, this is a tough one. I think this may be one of the best matchups in the whole finals matchups that we're going to talk about. I've got Chun, and I've got her winning 10-4. The way I think the match would go is Chun hits a slide by to single. And actually, the reason I picked that is because that's exactly what she did to her in the match I watched. Slide by to single. I think she rolls her up for making a 4-point exchange. I think Lampy, Chun was a high volume shooter. She didn't finish all of them, and she got scored on sometimes. And so I think Lampy gets a defensive takedown in the first period. I think it's 4-2. I think Chun gets another takedown and hits that nasty trap arm gut that she had, making it 8-2. I think Lampy gets her signature single, making it 8-4. And Chun gets to the front head on a bad shot from Lampy at the end of the match and gets a late takedown, wins it. Chun 10-4, and Chun wins the virtual tournament.
Yeah, so Chun is the best of all time. She wins it 5-1 voting wise, because including the fan vote, she got 5 total votes. So yeah, Chun, best of all time. She's, you know, like I said before, if there was Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling, I think she'd be on it.
I agree totally.
All right,
Yeah.
hey, before you jump into the next weight class, can I just circle back to the Menlo McKendry thing real quick? Because I've been texting Sam.
What he said.
Yeah.
All right.
Derek is gonna single-handedly make this happen.
Listen, I've got permission to share this, okay? So I said, hey, we're talking on AWW radio about McKendry versus Menlo next year. And he goes, right now, he said they wouldn't survive that.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm just a messenger, Precious.
Dude, I'm not even going to say text Joey because that's just not. I'm just going to talk for Joey right now. Put your money where your mouth is.
Right? Yeah, let's make this happen. Right? And then he said, are we talking 1920 or 2021? I said 2021, and all he says is, come on.
Oh.
Like, let's go. And then he says, all the respect to their program. He says, not even worth talking about.
Oh.
Oh.
You talk about
Hey,
landmines.
honestly, this is why I love this guy, because as much as he is, like, he puts off that he's just this, like, I don't care person, Billy Bad, whatever, you know, he's actually a great coach and a freaking phenomenal, like, team leader. So I'm going to give that to him. But I'm telling him, messing around with Joey Barang, you don't get your feelings hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him for believing in his team, right?
Yeah, same way you can't blame me. So that's what his respect comes. G's respect G's. But
Respect.
all right, put that money where that mouth is. It's going to be nice beating you, too.
I love it. I love it. All
I
right.
like it. Okay, let's jump into the next week, because I think this is also a really good matchup, especially stylistically. We have 2016 Olympic champ Helen Maroulis. The fans did vote Helen in this case. Versus 2019 world champion Jakara Winchester. What do you guys think?
Helen is amazing. I'm trying to wrap my mind around both these athletes, their styles and their results. They're both incredible, but just watching Helen, so many attacks. You know, like, you know, each athlete, you're trying to figure out like their signature go-to. And, you know, maybe Helen would say she has a certain signature go-to. You know, she does seem to like the 2-on-1 and, you know, to sweep that, to sweep the foot to the right or their left foot. She's been using that a lot over the last few years. But if you watch like a lot of matches, you don't see like one single, like she doesn't get like laser focused in a negative way on one attack. She responds and reacts, and, you know, 2-on-1s, foot sweeps, inside trips, left side single, go behinds. She's incredible. So, you know, both Jakara and Helen are excellent technicians. I think Jakara is an incredible hand fighter. Love her underhook. Really good defense, but I think that Helen's just got too much offense, and I think Helen wins that one. She's got my vote.
What is they wrestled in 2017, right?
2017 and 2015, yeah. And those are both like her highlight years if you think about it.
Yeah, she was a world champion both years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the previous year in the middle, she was an Olympic gold medalist. So,
yeah.
That's above average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I think.
Oh, you go, Precious.
Yeah, I'm going to cut off bias in this because Jakara is one of my greatest friends. And Helen Maroulis, to me, is the most humble person I look up to just because of, if you watch her documentary, Girls Can't Wrestle, like, I don't know, connected with so many things she said. But I'm kind of the person right now that's in a weight class where I'm kind of always knocked down because I'm going against a 5-time world champ. And to me, this kind of reminds me of this kind of situation where this is where Jakara is developing. You got to think about this, like from 2015 to their match in 2017. Jakara is developing, like she's getting and finding out where she is as a wrestler, and she's a young wrestler compared to Helen, who, you know, is in her prime these like these 3 years. And if you watch the matches, you can kind of see Helen dominating. So if we're doing like pound for pound, like who's the, like in my opinion, who will win a match if they would wrestle next year, I would kind of go with Jakara. But if we're talking about right now for their careers, Helen or Jakara, I would have to go with Helen because she is our first woman gold medalist, and those years when it's playing on the video, like that, those years when they're wrestling, Helen was the best. You know, her attacks, dude, smooth. Her mentality when she went out there, just great. But I just think it's not really fair to Jakara, and in some way, if you actually think about it. So yeah, I will go with Helen. But if they wrestle next year, I think Jakara can take her.
That's true. I think Helen, Helen in 2016 was like a completely different animal. Like she went to 53s to wrestle Yoshida. So she was hungry. She didn't go like, oh, thinking I have a good chance. She was like, I'm going to beat the best. I'm not going to be the best. I'm going to beat the best, which I think is like very like empowering and very awesome, like great for her. And I think she just had that mentality that, like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've won 14 like straight world championships and Olympics and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to beat you. And so I think when we're going with 2016 Helen and 2019 Jakara, I think I'm going to have to say Helen. But I do agree with Precious. I think Jakara is still like up and coming. I don't think she's hit her peak years, and I think she has a lot more to go.
Not even close.
Yeah, so I think with this, I would say Helen, but I am interested to see, you know, future Jakara and future Helen if they were to wrestle as well.
I kind of think along similar lines as you and Precious, Lauren. I think that 2019 Jakara is totally different than previous years. You know, in 2016 she actually couldn't compete at Olympic trials because she tore her ACL. So, you know, 2017, she was just coming back. So I think that result is going to like reflect that she was off the mat for an extended period of time. That being said, I think Helen presents some problems offensively, just like with Derek, what he said. You know, she can score left to right, high to low. She has so many scoring opportunities. What I think is pretty interesting is that they actually had similar years. Helen in 2015 won a world title at the non-Olympic weight 55 and then was dropping down, won the gold. And then Jakara won at 55, was dropping down and was on track to do the same thing. So I find it interesting that their years are actually pretty comparable. I think in 2016, Helen had such a depth of competition she had to go through to get her gold. You know, she had to go through Yoshida. She had to go through Matt Stone, who they were both previous world champs. Both had beaten her. She also had to go through, I think it was North or South Korea. I can't quite remember, but she was down like by 3 points with under a minute to go, had to come back. So I think just the quality of competition she faced in 2016 was greater than Jakara's in 2019. However, I think Helen's 2015 Worlds and Jakara's 2019 Worlds are very comparable as far as competition. And I do think Jakara, you know, has still many, many years to go and, you know, hasn't reached probably her peak yet. So I find it interesting. And I think that if they were to wrestle next year, I might take Jakara. But as far as their overall body of work, competition, Helen's offensive attacks, I would take Helen in this. So that's what I'm going to go.
Those situations are so hard.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, I felt bad, you know, watching matches with, you know, Helen Jakara, watching the 2015, 2017 match, immediately, like it was so hard not to be like, oh my goodness, domination. I mean, she looked awesome. I mean, it was unbelievable. But then having to go back and then watch Jakara's, you know, 2019 rule. I mean, she dominated the world. It was fun to watch and fantastic wrestling. I think everything you guys are saying, I'm on board with. I think that 2016 Helen Maroulis was one of the greatest, you know, obviously.
Legend, right? I mean, you got to say
the greatest
year for Helen. She's a legend.
Yeah, it's a legend. That was legendary, and it was awesome. And yeah, I'm going with Helen, but I really I really appreciate the just diving into the study of both these wrestlers. Amazing stuff. And like you said, Jakara is still up and coming and dominating last year. It's really exciting to see what the future holds.
I bet money Olympic champ.
So Helen wins that one 6-0. But all respect to both of them. They're obviously both world champions, amazing athletes. And I think I'm excited to watch what they're going to do in 2020. With that being said, we are now on to 57 kg, where we have 2008 Marcy Van Dusen, who now is heavily involved with Tide Mercury, of course, and then an Olympian in 2008. Versus 2017 world silver, Allie Reagan, who obviously, is the 2021 now Olympic hopeful, world silver, multiple time world medalist. What do you guys think?
This was tough. I don't know. This was tough. I had a hard time trying to see this one all out from my end. Van Dusen, all my watching the videos of her, just not knowing much about her coming into this whole study has been just eye-opening. But at the end of the day, I'm, and maybe it's recency bias, maybe it's just where, the way I see it, I just see Allie Reagan as a force to be reckoned with, and my vote's with Allie.
Lauren, I'm curious. I noticed that Marcy Van Dusen was a coach for California. You run into her at all?
Yeah, I got mad respect for Marcy. She's an awesome person, a phenomenal wrestler, and a super good coach. I really like her. In my corner, I really like just talking with her, having a conversation with her. So this one is hard. I do agree. We do have to take into account, though, Marcy wrestled in 2008. So the level of competition and the amount of girls, so quality and quantity of girls in 2008 is worlds different than it is now in 2017, 2018, 2019, those kinds of years. So like it's just hard because, I think also with these older female wrestlers, we have this great respect for them. And so to say that they wouldn't win, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can say that. But I do think like Marcy was killer. She was an Olympian. I don't think she placed at the Olympics, but she was an Olympian in Beijing.
She was ninth, I think.
She was ninth.
She did beat Yoshida that year too. She did beat Yoshida.
That's like it's crazy. It's so hard.
Not at the Olympics though.
No, not at the Olympics. Okay. I think they had like another type of world championship that year.
Okay.
So I want to say Marcy's a killer, but I do think with the level of competition now and the accolades that Allie Reagan has had and created for herself, I think I'm gonna have to go with Allie. Mad respect for both women, and all the women in this whole tournament. But I also think I said this before with a lot of other younger girls. I think Allie, just in the last few years, has really stepped up her game, and she's really doing well. And she's super dangerous from a lot of different positions. She's got great defense, and she stays in good position a lot of times. And so I think I'm gonna have to go with Allie for this one.
I'm sorry. I'm just trembling a little bit because Precious. I just saw Precious's bicep. Oh my gosh. Anyway, scared me a little bit. All right.
Oh my bad. It scares me too.
No, it's like you're.
Hey.
I'm blushing.
Hey,
so I'm actually gonna counter what Lauren said.
Go ahead.
So I think I'm going to go with Marcy for a couple reasons. I think that domestically, competition in 2008 wasn't what it was in 2017. But also, when Allie made the world team in 2017, her finals opponent was Francesca Giorgio, which no disrespect to her, but I think Marcy's competition to make the Olympic team was equivalent, if not even harder. I think, too, that Olympic weights are generally, it's a consensus that the year before or after the Olympics, non-Olympic weights are not as loaded because a lot of other countries, they take a year off after the Olympics. And so world medal is obviously a huge accomplishment and a world medal. But I think I give more weight to making an Olympic team and beating Yoshida, given that Ali was at a non-Olympic weight both years she won her world medal. I do think if they were to wrestle a match, I would take Ali. I think Ali has a lot of offensive attacks. I think she can score with her low single, and then has kind of like underrated defense. You know, when she wrestled Jenna in Final X, she didn't get scored on at all. And I think people kind of know her for her variety in her offense, but I think they kind of neglect to mention her defensive capabilities. But given, you know, their credentials in their peak years, I think I'm gonna have to go Marcy.
I will just say this about this matchup. I don't think there would be any passivity calls.
No way.
I saw a match between Marcy Van Dusen and one of my new heroes, Tina George. I actually didn't write the date down. So, you know, it must have happened over a decade ago, around a decade ago. And by my score, it was 18-13 Tina George. It was just wild, just attack after attack, good attack. Like, it wasn't like they got tired and sloppy. They were just really putting good attacks on each other. And it was a really fantastic match. And, you know, we know how good Tina George was as well. So that said, you know, I was actually going to point out the same thing you did, Emma, that, you know, Ali, you know, she's a prolific leg attacker, you know, maybe one of the best in the United States. But also, I noticed how good her defense was, too. And when I think of Ali Regan, I don't think of defense, but there was one shot in particular in one of her matches with Jenna Burkett in 2018 when Jenna, you know, she was working off a 2-on-1 and got into a deep double, and it looked like a sure thing. And Ali just, you know, athleted her way out of it, and, you know, just amazing defense. One of the things I noticed about Marcy is she was really good at building up when she got to the leg and finishing, but I don't think she could do that the whole match. So the way I actually had this match going was I thought Van Dusen would get the first score. I thought she might get in on Ali's legs and, you know, when she was fresh, be able to do what she does and build up and get that takedown. But I think the next time she shot, I think you'd see Ali's defense. And then Ali gets to one of her leg attacks. I think maybe the first period ends like 4-2 Ali. Second period, I think Marcy, coming off of a fresh break, gets to a leg shot again, builds up and finishes. 4-4, I think Ali shoots again, 6-4, and then Ali defends a late shot. Marcy can't finish, and I think Ali wins this 8-4. That's kind of how I scored that, so I'm picking Ali.
Dang. I don't know. Again, Marcy is an amazing person. I got the opportunity to just like have her in my life. And then same with Sush's mom, that's Ali, love her cat. Like, she's one of the people I got to spend a couple of trips with when we went to Japan and stuff. So I'm thinking about watching. I only watch Marcy wrestle online. So I have actually seen Ali wrestle in person, and I've seen her work ethic. I've seen just the way she carries herself, and oof, I don't. Is there any way I can be in the middle?
You want to abstain?
Yeah, because I can't.
Are we 2-2 right now?
I'm the only one that's voted for Marcy so far, I think.
And the three of you. And what was the fan vote?
The fan vote was with Ali. So I have right now 2 votes for Ali between us, the fan vote, and 1 vote for Marcy.
Okay, who hasn't voted yet? Besides Precious, who's currently abstaining.
I voted for Ali. Who did you vote for?
Me?
Yeah.
Ali.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I missed your vote, Derek.
All right.
Lauren got Ali.
Yep.
Precious is abstaining. So that should be 4. So Ali wins this one 4-1.
Right.
And Precious was able to abstain from voting. So
Yeah. It's hard to vote against the Cali girls.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's really hard.
It's so hard. Because
It's like
there's-
Ben voting against any SFU wrestler like ever.
true. That's why I voted. That's why I voted for Helen. It's the only reason.
Okay.
Oakland, baby.
So Allie is the best of all time at 57 kg. So congrats to her. Obviously, super talented athlete. Excited to see what she does in 2021, and I'm excited for her to wrestle Helen again. That was a great matchup. At WCWA's for the wrestle off, and I think it's going to be great at Olympic trials. But next up, we have 2004 Olympic silver. Sarah McMahon turned into a UFC star after that. Versus 2008 Beijing bronze, Randy Miller. What do you guys think?
I can go first.
Go ahead, Emma.
Since Randy was my landmine last week, I'm pulling for her. I mean, because I think Sarah McMahon won. Is that correct? The fan vote?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she did.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's hard. I think they both have Olympic medals, which is a pretty big deal. So that's my one criteria that I can't use. But I will say 2004 Olympics, I think much different than 2008 Olympics. Just more girls. It's the second Olympics as opposed to the first Olympics with women's wrestling. Also, if you watch videos of Randy wrestling, she was just a bully. Like she was
She's a beast.
Yeah, she was crazy. Like super good position and just like constant pressure on her opponent. So I think, I mean, obviously Sarah McMahon now has turned into an MMA career, so she's no stranger to constant pressure and bully types. But I think I would have to go with Randy Miller on this one.
Hey, I'm going to save everybody some time here. Okay? Watch this. Boom!
Whoa!
Landmine.
Using your landmine? Oh,
landmine. How's it going?
Randy Miller wins this.
Good. Okay.
Oh, snap.
And listen, this is not far-fetched. I mean, this match happened. Miller smashed her. The one match I saw that they wrestled, I think it would have been a tech fall by today's scoring. And so my match prediction is Randy Miller, snap down, go behind, and then Randy Miller, snap down, go behind, and then in the second period, Miller, snap down, go behind, snap down, go behind. McMahon gets a late push-out attempt on a throw. Randy Miller wins this 8-0 in a series of snap down, go behind. I mean, she was positionally a brick wall. Like, you could not get to her. I mean, this sounds silly, but I was blown away by her head position. She always was able with her head to get a dominant position to score and move her opponent around. Even somebody like Sarah McMahon in the match I saw, Olympic bronze medalist. No disrespect to Sarah McMahon. I'm glad we got to promote her career in this thing, and she had a great MMA career. But man, Randy Miller, landmine, virtual champ.
You know what's wild is I was gonna go against Randy and vote for Sarah, just because Sarah, like the depth of competition, she only lost to Icho, who was a 4-time Olympic champ, and Icho had to score a takedown in the last period with under a minute to go to win, and she lost like 3-2. So that was gonna be my vote, but of course Randy is an absolute animal, and I think she 100% deserves it. She had an amazing career, and I think people not that she's underrated because she's an Olympic medalist, but I think people forget just how good she was.
She's disrespected, in my opinion. She's not giving the praise that she deserves because she's one of the staple athletes. Like if you think about right now, no disrespect of any wrestler, and this isn't me in it. If you look at any other wrestler who was ever as mean and vicious and strong and powerful as she is, if you have ever watched that woman wrestle in just one of the pictures when she's just like screaming, I worked a camp with her and she doubled me once. I don't want nothing to do with her. And I'm young. So, and I've never felt that before. And I went against so many good people in wrestling. I for sure just pull straight for Randy Miller. I love Sarah McMahon though, because I did a camp with her also. And she blew me away because she was pregnant and she still had a freaking 6-pack. That was phenomenal. She's like my goals when I get older. I want to be pregnant with a 6-pack. I'm ready for it. But Randy Miller all the way. She gets too much disrespect, and she doesn't get enough limelight. She deserves it all.
Yeah, I mean, she could really just move her opponents around. She controlled the center mat. she was able to, just move her opponents to get into positions to score, whether it was snap downs or doubles. Really one of the best all time. I mean, obviously we're talking about that right now, but well deserved. And by the way, we just posted a little kind of commercial. We just posted an article that Coach Shannon Gillespie and Randy Miller wrote together on Randy Miller's warm-ups, and it's on AWW, AmericanWomen'sWrestling.com. She kind of lets you in on her secrets, how she would mentally prepare and get ready for tournaments and matchups, and it got a nice response, and I think it helped some wrestlers. So just a little shout out there.
Hey, Derek, quick
question. Sorry. I'm just saying that we need to get her on a coaching staff. Like, I don't understand why I haven't seen her either on a big platform for coaching. Like, she would produce phenomenal wrestlers.
Yeah. Yep.
No, totally with you on Randy. The choice for Randy Miller, amazing wrestler. Derek, I had a question though, kind of off topic, real quick before we go on to the next weight class.
Yeah.
Speaking of head games and stuff like that, I was watching a TikTok video with you yesterday, and it looked like you tried to pull off a cartwheel and somehow you hurt yourself and you were.
Yeah, not bragging or anything, but I'm pretty good at TikTok dancing.
Oh.
My handle is at Tiger Joe Daddy. I just use TikTok for dancing. I did have an accident yesterday as I was trying an Irish dance. I got a minor sprain on my ankle, but it was worth it because
you look like you broke your ankle. You were in so much pain.
Yeah, I mean, it was worth it because of the 8 likes I got on the video.
There you go. Influencing millions out here.
I'm still floating.
I need to find that video.
Yeah,
I'm posting it on my story today. I gotta find that video.
Okay, let's move on to our next matchup. We have 2019 world champion Tamara Mensah-Stock, 2-time world medalist, I believe 3 world teams, and then she won Olympic trials in 2016. And then in 2019, we have Flores Molinari, senior nationals champion, 5th at senior worlds, 2-time world team member. What do you guys think?
It's gonna be a close match, just like Forrest loves.
Precious, you want to kick it off?
I think I should wait for my response.
Okay, I'll go. I'll bite. So the fans voted for Mensah, and I don't want to say this is a next topic because Forrest is insanely good. Obviously, he made 2 world teams, 5th at Worlds twice, but Mensah outscored an Olympic champion 8-0, like an Olympic champion. Dosho in Worlds last year, and she basically, she gave up a few points at Worlds, but practically went unscored on. She won like all the ranking series and went unscored on in a couple of those. Her only loss recently has been to China, where she was up 8-0. So I just don't see Forrest finding a way to get through Mensah's incredible offense if an Olympic champ can't do it. I do think Forrest might catch her with like one of her low-level attacks. She has a great low single. Obviously, kind of like Randy Miller is really in your face and kind of like really good at pressuring her opponents. But I just don't see that being enough to beat Mensah. So I have Mensah winning by a score of 8-2.
Yeah, I think Forrest's style pressuring Mensah will be great. It'll be a great match to watch. It'll be fun, just the energy of it, the excitement of it. But it
might happen, by the way.
What's that?
And it might happen, by the way.
I know. And no, I'm with Mensah on this one. I totally agree with what you guys say. I just don't think as aggressive as Forrest is and as fun as and she needs to be. You need to be aggressive, and you need to push your offense against Mensah. I just don't see her having enough at this point. And again, I will say this about Forrest. I mean, I've just watching a lot of footage of her over the years. She's continuing, her trajectory is continuing to rise. Yeah. And, but certainly I'm pulling for Mensah in this matchup.
I'm going to have to agree with you too. Forrest, also California girl. I've known her for a while, but I do think Mensah, world champion, and she just has like a tenacity. And Forrest does too. They both. I do think it would be a awesome match to watch, and I hope I am there to see it in person because I think it is going to be pretty phenomenal. But I do think I'm going to have to go with Mensa on this one over Forrest.
Yeah. One of the interesting things for me is I think this is the only matchup in the finals where the peak year is the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Tamara and Forrest both 2019. So, that's pretty cool that we're talking about, at least by our guesstimates, two women in the same era are the two best all time at that weight. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a lot of drama around this potential matchup. I mean, we all know what happened was it Senior Nationals when I think Tamara was part of she was calling the match with Flo, I think, and then Forrest stood up and said, "This is my weight." It's a lot of fun. I mean, this is a fun matchup right now. It's very relevant, and so we're kind of predicting what might actually happen within a year or so here. So that said, they did wrestle in 2014. Maybe they wrestled more than once, but the match that I saw, Mensa beat her 9-5, and actually Forrest had her on her back. It was pretty scary. Some referees may have actually called a fall under different circumstances. But other than that, one sequence.
Wrestled again in 2017, by the way.
What happened there?
I think it was a low-scoring match. Like, Mensa won, but it was like 4-0. It was at the Spanish Grand Prix at 69 kilos, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wrote down, and maybe this is just because of Forrest recently, but it seems like she's depending a lot on her front head, and not just front head, but a home run from the front head. I mean, didn't she pin Victoria Francis with basically a front head mixer? Isn't that how that went down?
I thought it was almost like a cow catcher, to be honest.
Well, I think that's what we call it on the East Coast, is a mixer.
Yeah, like she snapped her and then got her arm underneath and kind of went from there. So
yeah, so I wrote down, can Forrest get to the front head? And my answer was maybe. And then, can Forrest rip a cow catcher? I don't think so. Maybe late she could get to the front head. I think Tamara would bail before it turned into a big move and maybe give up 2 there. So I had 6-2 Tamara, and she gets my vote. So.
So I was laughing in the beginning because I tried to look up your TikTok and got something totally different. I got what's that guy called? The Tiger King or something like that. So sorry for laughing in the beginning.
No, it's Tiger Joe Daddy. Tiger Joe Daddy.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay, messed it up. That's why I had to think for a second. So with this matchup, of course, I was at the U.S. Open. I just finished wrestling, and I saw this match go down. And no disrespect at all. My opinion at the end of the day doesn't matter, just like anyone's opinion on me doesn't matter. But I just feel like you can't stand up and say, this is my weight class, and disrespect Tamara like that. And Victoria Francis is a great wrestler, phenomenal wrestler, great ally, one of my good friends. But I don't think that, how do you say this? I don't think you should win a match like that and be like, this is my weight class. That's like me winning the U.S. Open against one of my best friends, and then even in April, and screaming, this is my weight class against Adeline Gray. Like that's disrespect. That makes no sense in my head. I get it competition wise, but respect wise, I think that's disrespectful when it comes to an actual world champ. And so that's just my standards, and I'm a very humble person. Again, how I was coming up, you don't really talk too much, you just do the work. So I take Mensa just because of Mensa's style. I don't name one match you really seen anyone get a hand pitch on her like that in the world stage. So it's just I think their matchups are just completely different, like their styles. And I think Forrest is going to have to change her style a little bit more to even try to get a hold of Tamara, because Tamara's going to be on offense the whole time getting it.
And that single is awesome that she has. That like misdirection sweep that she takes to the right. It's almost
so fast. Yeah. They're like, once she gets in, you're done kind of thing. So I have a lot of respect for Forrest, because me and her are in the same like situation where we're both going against phenomenal women in wrestling in Olympic trials pretty soon. So respect to her, and I respect her as a wrestler, and I do like her, but just some things that she did I don't agree, which again doesn't matter. And also I just think that Tamara.
So Mensa wins that matchup 6-0, but like we all said, you know, mad respect to both of these girls. They're obviously, you know, women, and they're obviously in the best of all time finals, so they're pretty freaking good. But I think this is the premier matchup. I think we definitely saved the best for last. We have at 76 kilos, 2019 world champion Adeline Gray versus 2007 world silver Christy Davis. But keep in mind, she has made a record, 10 world teams. Her and Elena are tied for that. And then she has the most world medals of any women wrestler in history. So what do you guys think?
Hey, before anybody talks, can I just ask Precious if she's willing to go first? Because obviously she has experience there. You know, I mean, trying to do research, one of the first things that pops up is Precious Bell versus Adeline Gray.
Get my butt whipped.
So, I mean, before we talking heads start analyzing this, can we hear from somebody who's wrestled her?
Yeah. So I think I have never wrestled someone that like tore my soul apart. Like in the deepest, darkest place ever. If you remember that match where Terry Brands lost to
Kendall Cross?
Yes, for the Olympics. And you know how Terry went through that whole like
he was going to run to the mountains. Yeah.
That was me. That was me. that was me. I was watching that stuff about Terry, and I'm like, that's me.
Hey, at least nobody saw it, Precious. Oh wait, the whole wrestling community did.
So that will live with me forever, you know, but I'm gonna give it back. But that will live it. Sheesh, that will live with. Woo, like I'm getting hard. Like it just hurts me thinking about it. But yeah, and just like everything that I went through that too, like the negative comments of people, and then how people were just so rude to me after. I was just I went through a lot. So just saying wrestling Adeline, her wrestling, phenomenal wrestler. Like if you have to earn to take her down. You have to earn to get through her. I watched her once. I want to say once. I like took time, and it was before I even really knew that she was my competition. But to watch her in the mat room, always with a notebook in her hand, always, you know, precisely like trying to do the right moves and, you know, getting her technique down. Like huge advocate for women's wrestling, period. I don't know where we would be without her, but definitely just wrestling her, I'm just like, but Christy Davis, it's a thing about being consistent with me, and how Joey always like kind of put in my head. At the end of the day, it's kind of, even Jordan Burroughs kind of said it. It's not really about, at the end of the day, yes, it is about the medal, but once you're on your 5th world team, making 10 and medaling in them, it's like phenomenal. Like I'm gonna try to make a decision on this one. I don't want to go in the middle because it's good, but I would have to say Christy Davis only because of her consistent, like throughout the 10 years, just like just scoring and keeping it through. If it wasn't for that, I would pick Adeline because I have felt her before. I've seen her work ethic. I'm in the wrestling room with her sometimes, and even though we are, you know, going against each other, she's a big advocate, and I can say have my back. So, yeah, Christy Davis.
Wow.
Yeah, that was hard.
So I'm going to take Adeline for a couple reasons. I think just stylistically, Adeline is, I think, the best wrestler in the world in parterre. You know, at least for laces, there might be some girls like Zhao from China who beat Mensa at the ranking tournament. She has an incredible gut and could probably contend for that. But I think Adeline, across all her world championships, has been the most consistent at turning people from parterre. Like, I believe in her world finals in 2015, she was actually down by a lot and then caught a lace and ended up teching the girl, or almost teching her. It was a China girl. But I just think that if she got a takedown on Davis, I think she would be able to get to her lace and turn her. Like, she got to her lace against Adar at the World Championships in 2018, who Adar had won it the year when Adeline was out with a shoulder injury, and teched her. You know, it was over. So I think if Adeline gets one takedown, you got to think that if she can get it on Adar, you know, she might be able to get a lace and tech Christy Davis. Now, I don't have her winning by tech. I think maybe she gets 2 or 4 out of it. But I think, like Precious said, Christy is the most consistent women wrestler of all time. And I think if Adeline goes on and wins more medals at the Olympics, you know, she'll be up there as far as medal count, because she does have other medals at the World Championships. You know, I think she has like a bronze. I think she has a silver. No, maybe just a bronze. But Adeline is very consistent. However, Christy has the most medals, and I think that's worth stating. I do think as far as quality of competition, Adeline wins that one. And the fact that if we merit Olympics, I don't believe Christy ever made an Olympic team, and Adeline, you know, made the team in 2016. So for those reasons, all respect to Christy Davis, obviously pioneer of the sport, super, super good, but I got Adeline.
I know I joke like this sometimes, like if there was a Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling, you know, in U.S. women's wrestling, you can see both their faces up in that mountain. The problem is, in my mind, though, I have like 40 faces right now on that mountainside. It's hard, you know, there's so many people.
You need like a mountain range for all the people you're putting on that mountain.
Yeah, it's a lot of carving in mountains that,
Wait,
that would have to happen.
Are you putting yourself on that mountain? Like, right?
I am up on that mountain. Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm there.
All these women.
I have no business.
And then women's wrestling journalist Ben is also up there.
This would be a fantastic matchup. I of course watched a lot of matches from both of them. I've been watching Adeline, obviously, you know, wrestling here for the last season, and I was really curious about what Precious said. I'm honestly surprised she went with Christy. So that really, like, it kind of was like swaying me, because I was so close on the middle of the fence. I do think that Adeline herself has been, you know, there's consistency obviously in the amount of 10 world medals, as you mentioned, for Christy, but then Adeline's been consistent here in this last season of time.
Clarify, Christy has 9 medals out of 10 world teams.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful.
9, but yep. 9. She's been there for 10 years. You got to put in the age, not even just that, the age of where she started, and just like,
yeah,
like it's like,
pretty great.
But at the end of the day, I'm leaning, as I was coming into this, I'm leaning towards Adeline, which I feel like it'd be a matchup. I mean, I have no idea. You know, I really have no clue. These are 2 amazing wrestlers that do both belong on Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling, but I will lean towards Adeline Gray.
Okay.
I wanted to go early too, so I wasn't the tiebreaker. So we'll leave that for Lauren.
Yeah, listen, I'm a New York guy.
Right,
what's that?
Is it tied right now or no?
No, I don't know.
It's 2-2 right now, if you count the fan vote. Listen, I'm a New York guy. Christy Morano, Stenglein, Davis, New York gal. The case I would make for her is, if there is such a thing as a freestyle scrambler, I think that's Christy Davis. Like, you watch the way she scores, and a lot of times it's funky. It's just winning a position. It's getting into those, into those scrambles and coming out on top with a go behind or a turn or something. So she's a little unorthodox. I'm not sure how many opponents that do it as well as Christy does that Adeline has wrestled. 10 world teams, 9 world medals, not only the most decorated female wrestler of all time in the United States, the most decorated wrestler of all time in the United States. And for that reason, my vote goes to Adeline Gray.
What?
On.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. I agree.
Come on, 5-time world
You
champion,
made me think you were gonna think
5 world titles.
I'm on that. No, I get that. I'm with that. I picked Christy Davis for a reason because we don't really look at the older women who built this platform for us, and to do 9 consecutive like medals and then to be on 10 world teams, to me just doesn't outweigh it. But for me, I want to vote for her. I don't go against Adeline at all. I think she should win. But the fact that I thought you were going to say Christy Davis just blew me away because you said, oh, Adeline.
I love Christy Davis.
Field over here.
We love our New York girl, but I can't go against Adeline Gray. 5 world titles. Maybe, except for Helen, 2016, maybe the best women's American wrestler all time. My vote goes to Adeline. So that's it. It's 3-2. Fan vote is Christy. So this comes down to SFU.
Why'd you leave me laugh?
Oh, no.
Because I didn't want that. I didn't want to be you.
How the heck am I supposed to decide? I am so torn because there's good points for both. You know, you got 5-time world champ Adeline Gray wrestling in 2019 when the competition is much different than it was back in the day when Christy wrestled. But like you said, Derek, Christy is the best female wrestler in the United States, if not the best wrestler in the United States, which is insane, especially to say since women's wrestling has only been around for a number of years compared to the men. So for her to be the best and the most decorated in all, like, of all time for any individual wrestler is like mind-boggling to me. And I don't know, and I do agree. Adeline has a killer parterre. She's got a great cross ankle. She gets to it all the time with a lot of her wrestlers. But Christy Davis was a killer back in her day, and probably still now. I mean, she's a great coach. She's coached a lot of good wrestlers now, and that's something to be said too, for she can relay her good moves and her good techniques to other people as well. I don't know. I think it comes down to I don't know. Can I abstain?
No.
No, you can't abstain.
All right.
You
Well,
gotta bring it.
Pull the
okay.
trigger, Lauren. Take the
think
shot.
I'm going to have to go with Adeline Gray. just because the level of competition is so much different. And who's to say Adeline isn't to go on and make 10 world teams and have 9 world medals. So I think Adeline Gray, just because they both done incredible things internationally, but the international competition at the level in 2019 is much different than it was when was Christy's peak year? We said 2004?
2007.
Yeah. 2007? Oh,
So
dang,
that was a tough one, but I got to go with Adeline Gray.
Wow.
Yeah, I tried. Well,
Way to be brave, Lauren.
Whew.
Can't hear you, Emma.
Emma, you're muted.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry about that. Adeline Gray wins that one. I think, in my opinion, that was the best matchup of the whole tournament, the whole shebang. But just to tell the fans again who our winners were, Clarissa Chun won by a voting score of 5-1 over Alyssa Lampe. 2016, Helen Maroulis won over Jakara Winchester, 6-0. Marcy Van Dusen and Allie Reagan. Allie won that one, 4-1. Randy Miller got landmined by Derek over Sarah McMahon. Tamara Mensah Stock won 6-0 over Flores Molinari. and Adeline Gray and Christy Davis came down to the wire, but Adeline walks away with the title and the best of all time.
All right.
Well deserved.
Well done, everybody. So, Emma, big thanks from us here at American Women's Wrestling, and I know from the wrestling community. This has been fun. I know at times it's been intense. You know, you've taken some punches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like, you know, if we're analyzing results, nobody has a problem, you know. But if you're predicting results, people get upset, and doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I think it was great for the sport. But I really appreciate you and all the hard work that you and Laura put into this, and Reaper Wrestling, and this is a great project, and a lot of that goes to you being inspired to do it. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for deciding to partner with us. You know, we couldn't have done it without you, and I think, you know, if it brings more, even if we get some backlash from it, which we did, I think if it brings women's wrestling more into the limelight and gets more people thinking about it and interested in it, you know, maybe we can promote, you know, and help other media companies do the same, because, you know, I think the problem right now is people say, well, women's wrestling isn't making money, you know, with media coverage, or it doesn't get as many views. And yeah, it's not going to get as many views if there's no one understands the storyline behind it, right? Like if you look at JB and Jake, everyone knows they have this big rivalry that spans all these years, and they know this and that. But a lot of people don't know that about women's wrestling because it's never put out there. So it's kind of like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? And so we're kind of, you know, Reaper and American Women's Wrestling too is hoping to end that cycle, you know, and if we can promote women's wrestling and get people interested in the storylines, then maybe, you know, we can further the media coverage when it comes to women's wrestling.
Great.
Derek, if I could just say too, I just want to say to all three of you ladies, I just want to say thank you, because I think you're all amazing wrestlers. Obviously watched a lot of matches and watched you all wrestle, but I really appreciate the knowledge that you bring to the, you know, the full breadth of knowledge you bring to the talking about wrestling. It helps guys like me that is, you know, really kind of new to the sport in many ways, become educated and learn myself. And I'm always blown away by your insight and input, and you know, certainly thank you all so much for being a part of this with us at AWW Radio.
Yeah.
Can I say something as well? Also, another thank you, Emma. This was a super sweet bracket and a little promotion for Reaper Wrestling. It leads into perfectly our next project that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a legacy series. So the best of all times, we're going to take some of those women and create videos and kind of tell their stories so that we can, as a wrestling community, learn more about these women who are phenomenal and who we may not know very much about it. So stay tuned for Reaper Wrestling's Legacy series. It's going to be coming out next week. So
Yay!
Fantastic. And Precious Belle, thank you for joining us. You are a real joy to watch on the mat, and you're great in this environment too. And I know you've got a lot of miles ahead of you in wrestling, and for what it's worth, hopefully some of those miles are doing what you're doing today, and, you know, advocating for the sport and bringing your expertise and knowledge, you know, to, you know, women's wrestling journalism. I think you have a seat at the table there too. So really great having you today, and good luck and God bless with, you know, all your ventures with Kevin Black up there, and really excited to watch you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you, guys.
Okay, and with that, until next time, from AWW and Reaper, we are out.
Bye.